Keanu Reeves thought a quiet night at a free movie screening for orphans in LA would be just another Tuesday, until an 8-year-old boy named Max caught his eye, sitting alone, refusing popcorn. When Keanu struck up a chat about superheroes, Max's heartbreaking truth spilled out. He'd lost his mom, and the theater was their special place. Stirring memories of his own losses, Keanu couldn't walk away. What started with a shared bag of popcorn grew into late-night talks, a notebook of stories, and a bold idea to turn Max's pain into something beautiful. Could a shy kid and a Hollywood star create a film to heal old wounds? And what happens when their little project lights up more than just a screen? Stick around, hit like, share, and subscribe to find out. Where's your popcorn moment? Drop it below. Keanu Reeves wasn't looking for anything profound that night, just a break from the noise of his world. After the whirlwind of film sets and flashing cameras, a low-key charity movie night for kids sounded like the perfect escape. He settled into a seat, a bag of popcorn in hand, ready to blend into the crowd and be nobody for a while. No scripts, no stunts, just him and a superhero flick. But life, as Keanu knew too well, had a way of rewriting plans. He noticed the boy almost right away, a kid, maybe 8, tucked into the back row, knees pulled up, staring at nothing. While other kids grabbed free popcorn with eager hands, this boy waved it off, his face half hidden in a baggy hoodie. Something about that quiet refusal hit Keanu. He'd seen that look before, in the mirror, in tougher days. Loss had a way of marking you, and this kid wore it like a shadow. Keanu grabbed his popcorn and moved closer, sliding into the seat next to the boy. "Hey, you sure about skipping this?" he said, shaking the bag with a grin. "This stuff's better than half the snacks in LA." The kid glanced at the bag, eyes wary but curious. No smile, but no shutdown either. Keanu leaned back, keeping it light. "Name's Keanu, by the way. Big Spider-Man fan myself. You into it?" The boy hesitated, then muttered, "Max." His voice was small, like he wasn't used to using it. "Peter Parker's cool. He gets it, losing people." The words landed like a punch Keanu hadn't braced for. His mind flashed to Kim, his little sister, her laugh fading in a hospital room all those years ago. Leukemia had taken her, and the hole it left never quite closed. Then Ava, his stillborn daughter, Jennifer, gone in a crash. Loss wasn't just a word to Keanu. It was a weight he carried every day. He swallowed, keeping his face steady. "Yeah, Peter's got a tough road," he said, offering the popcorn again. "But he keeps going. That's what makes him a hero, right?" Max looked at him, really looked, and took a few kernels, chewing slowly. It wasn't much, but it felt like a crack in a wall. Keanu didn't push. He'd learned long ago that grief didn't like being rushed. The movie started, lights dimming, but Keanu's focus stayed on Max. The kid sat rigid, hands clenched, like he was holding something back. Keanu munched on popcorn, tossing out a quiet comment about Spider-Man's web-slinging to keep things easy. Max didn't respond much, but he didn't pull away either. Every now and then he'd grab another handful of popcorn and Keanu caught a flicker of something. Maybe trust, maybe just a kid needing a moment to breathe. Keanu knew he could have stayed in his seat, watched the film, and left without a word. He'd done it before, kept the world at arm's length to protect himself. After Kim, after Ava, after Jennifer, it was easier to move on than to risk feeling that kind of pain again. But sitting there, watching Max's small fingers dip into the bag, he felt a tug. This wasn't about pity, it was about recognition. He'd been that kid once, alone with a hurt too big to name. "So, Max," Keanu said softly as the movie rolled on, "you come here a lot?" Max shrugged, eyes on the screen. "Used to, with my mom." The word mom hung there, heavy, and Keanu's chest tightened. He didn't ask more, not yet. Instead, he nudged the popcorn closer. "Well, you've got good taste in seats. Back row's the best spot." Max's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close enough to count. They watched in silence for a while, the film's action filling the space between them. Keanu's mind wandered, though, back to the nights he'd sat with Kim, sharing stories to make her laugh through the pain. He wondered what Max's story was. What kept him here, in this theater, when the rest of the world was moving on? He didn't have answers, but for the first time in a long time, He wanted to find them. When the credits started to roll, kids around them stood, chattering and grabbing last handfuls of snacks. Max stayed put, eyes still fixed ahead. Keanu didn't move either. "Hey, Max," he said, voice low. "If you're ever back here, save me a seat, yeah?" Max nodded, just a small dip of his head, but it was enough. Keanu stood, popcorn bag lighter now, and walked out, Max's face lingering in his mind. What was it about this kid that made him want to stay? And why did it feel like he just stumbled into something he couldn't walk away from? Keanu Reeves lingered in the theater longer than he planned. The screen was dark now, the superhero flick over, and kids streamed out, their voices bouncing off the walls. But Max stayed, rooted to his seat in the back row, fingers tracing a worn-out bracelet on his wrist. Keanu watched him, feeling that tug again, the one that kept him from leaving. Something about this kid, about the way he held himself, wasn't letting go. He walked back, popcorn bag still in hand, and sat down. "Cool bracelet," he said, keeping it casual. "Got a story behind it?" Max's eyes flicked up, guarded but not closed off. "It was my mom's," he said, voice barely above a whisper. She died. Cancer." The word hit Keanu like a quiet thunderclap. He nodded, letting it sink in. "I'm sorry, Max," he said, meaning it. "That's a tough one." Max shrugged, but his fingers tightened around the bracelet. "We used to come here," he added, softer now. "Every weekend. She'd pick the movies, cartoons, superhero stuff, whatever. Didn't matter. She just liked being here." Keanu leaned back, the popcorn bag crinkling between them. He saw it all too clearly. Max's mom laughing, maybe sneaking candy into the theater, Max's small hand in hers. It wasn't just a story, it was a lifeline, and Max was clinging to it. Keanu's throat tightened. He knew that kind of ache. The kind that didn't fade. Kim's face flashed in his mind, her weak smile in that sterile hospital room, her hand squeezing his as leukemia stole her bit by bit. He'd been just a kid himself, powerless, telling her dumb stories to keep her spirits up. "Sounds like she was pretty great," he said to Max, voice steady but heavy. "She was," Max said, eyes dropping to the bracelet. "She'd watch Spider-Man with me, say he was cool because he messed up sometimes, like even heroes aren't perfect." Keanu nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Smart lady," he said. "I get why you'd hang on to that." He paused, weighing his next words. "You know, when I was younger, I lost someone too. My sister Kim. She got sick and, well, it was rough. I used to make up stories for her, crazy stuff about aliens or knights, anything to make her laugh. It didn't fix things, but it helped us both forget for a while." Max looked at him, curiosity cutting through the sadness. "You? Make up stories?" Keanu chuckled, a low, warm sound. "Yeah, me. I wasn't always, this guy." He gestured vaguely, meaning the fame, the lights, the whole deal. Just a scrappy kid trying to get by. Those stories, though, they kept us close, even when things got bad. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small notebook and a pen he kept for random thoughts. Ever try writing anything? A sentence, a doodle, might help you hold on to her. Max shook his head fast. "I'm no good at that," he said, almost defensive. Keanu didn't push. "Fair enough," he said, sliding the notebook across the armrest. "But if you change your mind, it's yours. No rules, no judgments, just you and the page." Max stared at the notebook, not touching it, but he didn't push it away either. Keanu let the moment breathe, the silence between them soft, but alive. "You think it'd make me miss her less?" Max asked suddenly, his voice small but piercing. Keanu's breath caught. He thought of Ava, his daughter who never got to take a breath, and Jennifer, gone in a flash of twisted metal. Fame hadn't shielded him from those nights when memories clawed him awake. "Not less," he said finally, honest, "but it might make her feel closer. Like she's still here, cheering you on." Max didn't reply, but his fingers brushed the notebook, and Keanu saw something shift, a tiny crack in the wall. The theater was nearly empty now, just a volunteer sweeping up. Keanu stood, leaving the notebook with Max. "I'll be around," he said, tossing a last handful of popcorn into his mouth. "Don't be a stranger, okay?" Max nodded, clutching the bracelet tighter, and Keanu headed out. The night air hit him as he reached his bike, but Max's words looped in his head. She liked being here. He climbed on, started the engine, then stopped, staring into the dark. He didn't know why, but that kid had reached into a place he'd locked away for years. Kim's laugh, Ava's absence, Jennifer's smile, they were all there, stirred up by a boy he'd just met. Keanu gripped the handlebars, the engine idling. He could ride off, let this be a one-night thing like so many moments he'd left behind, but he wouldn't. Not this time. Max wasn't just a kid in a hoodie. He was a mirror, reflecting every hurt Keanu had tried to bury, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to face it. Keanu Reeves didn't wait long to go back. A few days after that first night, he was at the theater again, a DVD of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse tucked under his arm. The place was buzzing with another free movie night for kids, but Keanu's eyes scanned the back row right away. There was Max, same hoodie, same guarded posture. But the notebook Keanu had left him was open now, a few messy lines scratched across the page. Keanu grinned, sliding into the seat beside him. "What's this?" he said, nodding at the notebook. "You look more like a writer than Spider-Man these days." Max's face broke into a small laugh, a quick, bright sound that caught Keanu off guard. It was the first time he'd heard it, and it hit him like a spark. "Not even close," Max said, but he didn't hide the notebook. Keanu held up the DVD. "Brought something special tonight. Want to watch it together?" Max hesitated, then nodded, and Keanu felt a quiet win. He handed over a fresh bag of popcorn and they settled in, the familiar crinkle of the bag bridging the space between them. As the movie played, Max started talking, not a flood, but a trickle. He mentioned his mom, how she'd sketch little cartoons of him as a superhero, cape and all. "She'd say I could save the world," he said, voice soft, eyes on the screen. Keanu listened, picturing it. A mom with a pencil, a kid with big dreams. "Sounds like she saw something awesome in you," he said, keeping it light. "Ever think about writing her superhero story? Call it Super Mac." He tossed in a goofy idea. "Maybe he's got a power, like throwing popcorn with deadly accuracy." Max snorted, actually grinning now. "That's dumb," he said, but he was still smiling, grabbing a handful of popcorn to prove the point. Keanu laughed, the sounds easy, real. He leaned back, letting the moment settle. "Tell you a secret," he said after a beat. "I used to hate acting, felt like a fraud standing in front of a camera. My sister, Kim, she'd tell me, just pretend you're the guy in the story." Made it easier. Max turned to him, curious. "You pretending now?" Keanu met his gaze, steady. "Nope, not with you." The words hung there, simple but heavy, and Max looked away, but not before Keanu caught a flicker of trust. They watched the rest of the movie, trading quiet comments about Miles Morales and his wild web-slinging. But Keanu's mind was half elsewhere, piecing together Max's world. He'd learned bits. Max lived with his aunt, who cared but worked long shifts, leaving him to wander. The theater was his anchor, a place where his mom's memory lingered in every seat, every screen. Keanu got it. After Jennifer died, he'd spent hours on his motorcycle, riding nowhere, chasing a feeling he couldn't name. For Max, this place was that ride, a safe harbor in a storm. After the film, Keanu started a new routine. He'd show up for movie nights, but sometimes he'd pull Max out for burgers instead, sitting across from him in a diner booth, listening. Max talked about school, how kids didn't get why he was quiet now, about friends who drifted away, about the fear that one day he'd wake up and not remember his mom's voice. Keanu didn't offer fixes. He knew there weren't any. Instead, he'd say, "Tell me about her cartoons again," or "What'd she laugh at most?" And Max would light up, just a little, keeping her close. One night, after a double feature, Max stopped Keanu before he left. "Here," he said, shoving the notebook forward, shy but determined. Keanu opened it to a single page, a short story, words wobbly but clear. It was about Super Max, a kid who lost his mom but found her again as a star in the sky, guiding him through the dark. Keanu read it, his eyes stinging, Kim's face blurring into the words. "Max," he said, voice rough, "this is good. Really good." Max's smile was wide, unguarded, the kind that made Keanu's chest ache. He walked out that night, the notebook's weight in his mind heavier than it should have been. Max's story wasn't just a kid's scribbles. It was a lifeline, same as Kim's stories had been for him. He climbed onto his bike, the engine's hum steadying him, and thought about that star in Max's words. It felt like Kim, like Ava, like Jennifer, all watching him now. He'd lost so much, but here was this kid, giving him a reason to show up. Keanu revved the engine, a promise forming. He wasn't just going to read Max's story. He was going to help him make it something bigger, something that could shine as bright as that star. Keanu Reeves couldn't shake the image of Max's notebook, those wobbly words about a star guiding a boy through the dark. It wasn't just a story, it was a piece of Max's heart, and Keanu wanted to help him share it. He'd spent enough nights chasing shadows on his bike to know creativity could be a lifeline, so he got to work. He called an old friend, a filmmaker who owed him a favor, pitching a simple idea. Turn Max Super into a short film, shot right in the theater, low budget but real. The guy was in, and Keanu felt a spark he hadn't in years. Not since he'd scribbled stories for Kim to make her smile. He caught up with Max after school, finding him at the theater steps, kicking pebbles. Got a wild idea, Keanu said, eyes bright. What if we made your story a movie, you, me, a camera, Super Max on the big screen? Max's face lit up for a second, but then doubt crept in. I'm not good enough for that, he muttered, staring at his sneakers. Keanu crouched down, level with him. It's not about being perfect, Max, it's about being you. Your mom'd love to see this, right? Max nodded, slow, and Keanu took it as a yes. They started small. Keanu brought a script outline, Max added bits about Super Max's adventures. But when they sat down to rehearse, Max froze. His voice shrank, his hands balled up. If I tell everyone her story, he whispered, what if she's gone? Like really gone? Keanu's stomach dropped. He'd seen that fear in Max's eyes, but he hadn't expected it to hit this hard. He'd pushed too fast, assuming a kid could leap where he'd stumbled himself. It reminded him of a mistake he'd made once, trying to fix someone's life without asking what they needed. He'd learned then, and he wouldn't mess this up now. I got it wrong, Keanu said, sitting next to Max in the empty theater, popcorn bag forgotten between them. I'm sorry, Max. I thought this would be easy for you. He paused, digging deep. After my sister Kim passed, I stopped writing for a long time. Felt like if I put her in words, I'd lose her for good. But I was wrong. Telling her story, it's what kept her with me. Max looked at him, eyes wide, searching. You still miss her? He asked. Keanu nodded, throat tight. Every day. But sharing her? That's not letting go. It's holding on tighter. Max didn't speak, but he leaned closer, and Keanu let the silence do the rest. Determined to get it right, Keanu pivoted. He invited a few other kids from the charity screenings to join in, not to take over, but to share the load. They met in the theater, sketching characters on napkins, laughing over popcorn fights. Max hesitated at first, but when a girl drew a goofy sidekick for Super Max, he grinned and jumped in, suggesting a villain who hated stars. Keanu watched from the back, heart full. Max was directing now, a little boss in a hoodie, and it felt like Kim was there, giggling at the chaos. Keanu slipped out to call his friend, locking in a date for a special screening. We're doing this, he said, voice firm. Weeks later, Max handed Keanu a finished script. 2 pages, rough but alive. Super Max fought shadows, guided by his mom, the star of light. Keanu read it in the dim theater glow, his chest aching. You've got something special here, he said, slinging an arm around Max's shoulders. Your mom's gotta be proud. Max beamed, but Keanu felt a knot of worry. The screening was coming fast, and Max's fear still lingered. Could a 5-minute film carry a kid through grief this big? Keanu had faced cameras and crowds, but this felt heavier, like he was holding Max's heart in his hands. He walked out that night, the theater dark behind him. The air was cool, but his thoughts were restless. Max's script wasn't just a project, it was a chance to heal, for both of them. Kim, Ava, Jennifer, they'd all left scars, and Keanu had spent years running from them. Now, here was Max, daring to face his pain head-on. Keanu climbed onto his bike, staring at the empty street. He'd give everything to make this work, but doubt gnawed at him. Could he help Max the way he'd once wished someone had helped him? The answer wasn't clear, but he wasn't backing down. The night of the screening arrived, and Keanu Reeves was a bundle of nerves. Not the kind he got on a film set, but something deeper, raw. The theater was alive, decked out with balloons and kid-drawn posters taped crookedly to the walls. Popcorn buckets lined the counter, free for the taking, a nod to the night this all began. Keanu kept it small, inviting close friends and a couple of young actors he'd worked with on The Matrix, but no press, no hype. This was for Max, not the spotlight. He spotted the kid near the screen, clutching his script, wearing the Spider-Man shirt his mom had bought him. Max looked like he might bolt, but Keanu knelt beside him. "You're the star tonight, Super Max," he said, voice steady. "You got this." Max managed a shaky nod, gripping the script like a lifeline. Keanu led him to a seat, then slipped to the back row, his usual spot. The lights dimmed, and the film started. A 5-minute burst of hand-drawn images and Max's voice, small but clear, telling the story of Super Max. The boy on screen faced shadows, doubt, and fear, but his mom, a glowing star, lit his way. It was simple, rough around the edges, but every frame carried Max's heart. Keanu watched, barely breathing. The crowd was silent, a few sniffles breaking through. He thought of Kim, her stories in that hospital bed, of Ava, a dream never held, of Jennifer, gone too soon. Max was doing what Keanu never could, sharing his pain without flinching. When the screen faded to black, the room erupted. Kids cheered, adults clapped, and Keanu felt his eyes burn. Max stood, face red, and whispered into the mic, "Thanks, Mom." The words cracked something open in Keanu. He was at Max's side in a heartbeat, pulling him into a hug. "You did it, kid," he said, voice rough, tears slipping free. Max hugged back, small but fierce, and the crowd kept clapping, oblivious to the weight of that moment. Keanu stepped to the mic, still holding Max's shoulder. "This kid's got courage," he said, voice steadying. "He turned something hard into something beautiful. And that's no small thing." He paused, glancing at Max, then back at the crowd. "Max inspired me, so I'm starting a fund. Nothing big, just enough to get kids like him into art classes, writing, filmmaking. Because stories like his, they matter." The room roared again, Max's eyes wide with shock. Keanu grinned at him, whispering, "Told you you're a star." After the film, kids swarmed Max, asking about Super Max, tossing popcorn in excitement. Keanu hung back, watching, his heart full but heavy. He'd spent years dodging his own grief. Kim's laugh, Ava's silence, Jennifer's smile. But Max had faced his head-on, with a courage Keanu envied. A girl handed Max a drawing and he laughed, pointing out details. It was Kim's laugh, somehow, alive again in this kid. Keanu's vision blurred, but he didn't fight it. For once, the tears felt right. Later, Max found him by the popcorn stand, holding a crumpled paper. "For you," he said, shy but proud. It was a sketch, Super Max soaring, and next to him a figure labeled Popcorn Hero, unmistakably Keanu, with a goofy grin and a bag of snacks. Keanu laughed, a real deep laugh, and pulled Max close, ruffling his hair. "We make a good team, huh?" he said, voice thick. Max nodded, smiling like the weight on him was lighter now. Keanu tucked the drawing into his jacket, next to his heart, and felt Kim's presence. Like she was nodding, too. As the crowd thinned, Keanu stood alone for a moment, the theater quiet. He'd come here looking for a break, a night to hide from the world. Instead, he'd found Max, a kid who'd given him more than he'd ever expected. Fame, films, all the noise of his life faded next to this. Max's story, his courage, had cracked open a door Keanu hadn't known was still there. He thought of the fund, the kids it might reach, and felt a purpose he hadn't in years. He walked out into the night, Max's drawing a soft weight against his chest. The stars were out, faint but steady, and Keanu looked up, wondering if Kim saw this, if Max's mom did too. That night, he knew it wasn't about the movies or the applause. It was about a kid who'd given him a reason to believe in something good again, a reason to keep showing up no matter how much it hurt. Keanu Reeves didn't stop showing up, Weeks after the screening, the theater became his and Max's unofficial hangout, a place where the world felt a little less heavy. Max had changed, not all at once, but enough to notice. The kid who'd once shrunk into his hoodie now stood taller, leading a pack of theater kids in wild storytelling sessions. He dubbed Keanu Coach Popcorn, a nickname that stuck, earning laughs every time Max shouted it across the lobby. Keanu saw the shift. Max's smile came easier, his voice carried further. Watching him toss popcorn to friends, joking like any other kid, Keanu felt a warmth he hadn't known in years. This was what Kim had done for him, lit a spark when the dark felt too big. Now, Max was that light, and Keanu wasn't letting it fade. The fund Keanu started wasn't just talk, it was moving. He'd poured his own money into it, quiet-like, the way he always did things. It wasn't about headlines, it was about kids like Max getting a shot to draw, write, or dream. He visited one of their first art classes, a chaotic room full of pencils and paint, kids sketching superheroes with crooked capes. Max was there, showing a younger boy how to shade a star. Keanu hung back, watching, and it hit him. This wasn't just a program, it was a family. Growing from one kid's courage, he thought of Kim, how she'd have loved this mess, and his chest tightened, not with pain, but with something softer, something alive. One afternoon, Max caught him off guard. "Here," he said, thrusting a new notebook into Keanu's hands, his grin shy but proud. "Your turn to write something." Keanu blinked, caught between a laugh and a lump in his throat. "Me?" he said, flipping the blank pages. "What's this for?" Max shrugged, mischievous. "You said stories keep people close, so write one. For you." Keanu stared at the notebook, Kim's voice echoing in his head. "Tell me a story, Keanu." He'd stopped writing after her, after Ava, after Jennifer, afraid it'd pull him under. But Max's challenge felt different, like a dare to try again. "All right, Super Max," he said, tucking it under his arm. "I'll think about it." Their bond spilled beyond the theater. One evening, Keanu and Max took over the popcorn stand, handing out free bags to every kid in the neighborhood. The line stretched out the door, voices loud and happy, popcorn flying like confetti. Max aimed a kernel at Keanu, landing it square on his forehead, and they both cracked up, the kind of laugh that makes your sides hurt. Keanu caught a glimpse of them in the concession mirror, two goofballs covered in popcorn dust, and for a moment, he saw Kim in Max's grin, Ava in his spark, Jennifer in his stubborn hope. The theater, once a quiet escape, was alive now, a fire he and Max had kindled together. As the weeks rolled on, Keanu kept coming back, not out of duty, but because Max had become his anchor. They'd watch superhero flicks, Max narrating every fight scene, Keanu tossing in bad impressions of villains to make him laugh. But it was more than movies. Max had taught him something. Happiness wasn't about dodging pain. It was about facing it, sharing it, turning it into something worth keeping. Keanu had spent years running on bikes, in films, through cities. But here, with Max, he'd stopped, and it felt right. One night, they sat in their usual spots, a new superhero movie flickering on screen, popcorn bag between them. Max was halfway through explaining why this hero's cape was totally impractical, when Keanu leaned over, voice low. "Thanks, Super Max," he said, the words carrying more than he could say. Max glanced at him confused, then grinned. "For what? The popcorn?" Keanu chuckled, shaking his head. "For being you." Max rolled his eyes, but his smile stayed, and they turned back to the movie, the world outside fading away. Keanu looked at the kid beside him, then up at the ceiling, where the projector's light danced like stars. He thought of Kim, Ava, Jennifer, not gone, but here, in this moment, in Max's laugh. The notebook in his jacket felt heavy, waiting for his story. Maybe he'd write it soon, not for fame, but for himself, for the people he'd loved. For now, though, this was enough. Him, Max, a bag of popcorn, and a theater full of possibilities. This story, it's a reminder, one small moment, a shared snack, a quiet word, can change everything. We've all got a Super Max out there, someone who shifts our world without trying. Who's yours? Share it, keep the spark going. And maybe, like Keanu, you'll find a reason to stop running and start building something real.